It's time for another exciting week of action here in NASA GT Americas. This time for a track that is famous for motorcycle racing as well as having an excellent museum. But that doesn't mean the four-wheeled cars get off easy. Barber Motorsports Park has put on some great races in the NTT Data IndyCar Series, and now we get to do the same for you live as we bring you tonight's action of the 90-something Studios Grand Prix. I'm Chad Irvine. Here with me in the ASN Commentary Cube, as always, is our good friend Mike Barry. Mike, what are your thoughts on this track?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this track here, Chad. I mean, it's just, might not be the best for passing, but it's a great driver's track. You got elevation change, you got fast corners, you got slow corners. You have that really interesting, like chicane, almost hairpin that we'll see guys coming up to, and that's just super challenging because you're going right down the hill, and you got to be turning all the way through. So I think we might not see the best on-track battles, but we're definitely going to see some drivers having their hands full tonight.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be fun to watch as this race breaks down real quick. I know we don't have the graphics for you tonight, unfortunately, for it, but we can take a look at our Simracer Going Drivers Championship, the points championship for the pro category. Josh Klog is on top with 193. Just 12 points back is Michael Janney of Renovo Chrome Racing. And then Saving Ragster in third, 15 points back. Then Ray Kingsbury is just 18 points back. So 6 points separating second through fourth. And then Yvonne Panda wraps up your top five for Renovo Racing Reloaded. And he's 38 points back. And then over in the Red Kite Drivers Championship, Christian Chandler just running away with it. He's got a very, very large gap over the rest of the field. Jimmy Mullis and Clark Archer, they've been running well all season, but they are not racing with us tonight. Well, Clark Archer, I believe, yes, he is. So Clark Archer is here, along with Christian Chandler, but some of the NASCAR guys, Richmond Raceway Esports guys, Jimmy Mullis, Zach Novak, not here once again. Over in the pro team standings, though, Spark last lap Motorsports a 39-point lead over Renovo Racing Reloaded. And in the iDrive Sim Training Team Championship, Richmond Raceway Esports still does have a commanding lead of that, even when they did unfortunately miss the last race. They're going to miss this one as well. I would expect those guys to be back for Circuit of the Americas to get some track time at next week's Lone Star Grand Prix. But Mike, as drivers going through qualifying, what are your thoughts as we see Christian Chandler take the pole, even though he might have struggled in practice?
Yeah, we saw him struggle in practice, about 2 or 3 tenths off of who's it, Clark Archer and Steve Brown, 3 tenths off of them, but he seems to have maybe been running a race out there where those two are running qualifying, because he's been able to shoot right ahead, 7 tenths up on his practice lap. Russell Clayson running second in there with almost 2 tenths off him. Clark Archer's third, about 2.5 tenths, and then Steve Brown, who was fastest in practice, fourth, 21.437, about 4 tenths off.
Yeah, not much time left for drivers to turn laps. Looks like the only person that has not turned one yet is Travis Seymour. He might just want to take his start from the back and kind of wait things out and be patient here. I think that the other couple cars remaining on track, like Taylor Carroll, a couple other guys, they're just turning laps, trying to get some time out there. But overall, we're just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for things to build up, trying to get things set here. But what a show that we've seen so far this season. It's going to be interesting. One thing to note, by the way, Matt Kingsbury, of course, we talked about his brother Ray doing so well in the championship, but Matt Kingsbury, he is 7th right now on the starting grid, and he actually switched manufacturers. He went from the Ford to the Corvette for this week's race, threw away all of his points like we've seen a couple of drivers do. But as we wrap things up here, let's take a look through the starting grid. Taking a look starting with the GT Pro category. Triple Nines of Philip Kraus, last week's winner in the Ford. He's on pole once again, followed by Ray Kingsbury. Then Savian Ragster and Josh Klog on the second row. And then it's going to be Yvonne Panda, Michael Janney, Matt Kingsbury making that car switch over to the Corvette that we just talked about. And then Dan McDonald. Marwan Mafta in 9th. 10th is Kevin Fanning. Then Tim Brokaw, Steve Lane, and Cody Cosgrove. They're your 13 drivers in the pro category tonight.
And looking down into our AM class, we have Christian Challoner on the pole, 121.093. Russell Clayson running 2/10 back. He'll be starting second. Clark Archer starting third. Steve Brown starting fourth. Brandon Lambert fifth. Peter Houston sixth. Taylor Carroll seventh. Kieran Forrest eighth. Seth Rawls ninth. Kyle Terrio 10th. Sean Stratton 11th. And rounding out the field, Travis Seymour with no qualifying lap. He'll be starting 12th.
Yeah, definitely one of the smaller fields that we've seen so far this season. I'm going to make things interesting for the drivers as they get set to start their pace lap. But I'm not sure where the real battles are going to be. I mean, Philip Kraus, he qualified 3/10 faster than anybody else in GT Pros. Challoner 2/10 faster than anybody in GT AMs. But there's also, if you look at the AM category, a huge gap between between fourth and fifth. Steve Brown qualified fourth at a 121.4. Meanwhile, qualifying fifth was Brandon Lambert, who qualified at a 122.1. So almost 8/10 of a second there between fourth and fifth in GTM. It's really going to split up this field as the race goes on.
I mean, just to point out real quick, all of the Renault cars, the highest one up out the 4 Renault cars is Sabian Ragster. So we may be seeing that the Ferraris aren't as powerful here. Obviously, they're the strongest on the straightaways. It's a very corner-centric track, so that's kind of why we see, I think, the first pole for a Ford all season.
I believe Philip Kraus, we're here and did get the pole last week.
Oh yeah, but forgot about that. In
the Ford. But other than that, it's been basically back and forth between Corvette and between the two main manufacturers that people are running in the pro category, the Corvette and the Ferrari. But just as they kind of take to the grid here, 3 of the top 4 cars are all Spark Virtual or Spark or Racing Spark colors, at least. I know Philip Kraus is more of an independent in this season, not getting points, if I remember correctly, for the same Spark Last Lap Motorsports team that Kingsbury and Clog are on. But either way, I mean, he's still running those colors and kind of in a technical alliance with them to get these setups put together.
Yeah, and now coming through the first turn here, we'll, I don't know. We've already gone through the starting. Let's take us through the track, maybe. I mean, you see the top 2 in GT Pro. They're coming through that long turn 2. Really tough to get right. You gotta hold it right on the exit because you have an uphill right here, taking you onto the first or the second straightaway of the lap.
Yeah, this next hairpin is one of the few passing zones as well. If you can get late on the brakes, especially if you get a good run out of turn number 3, you can really try to make a move, sending it up the inside there. This next set of corners that they're going to be coming up to here in a minute does not set up for much of a passing zone. It's just a little chicane into a hairpin. It's great for the motorcycles, when they run here. That's really what this track started out as, what it was designed as. But here in when you get these wider vehicles on here, this chicane really doesn't do much to them. You can basically straight line it and just make it into a double apex and right-hander.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it earlier. It's a challenging corner, but there's not really much passing opportunity here. And now you're coming down the not quite backstretch, which immediately about 400 meters after you come into a little left-right switch here.
It's challenging. You can take it pretty much flat out. It's a little chicane, a little kink in the backstretch, maybe a slight lift, but overall, it doesn't do much. But this is going to come up to another possible braking zone. There's not as much braking here as we'd see in turn 5, but turn 1 and turn 5 are the big 2 areas to watch for getting moves done.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're kind of seeing right now during the pace lap just the elevation changes we have. I think the heights aren't that much different, like from the highest and the lowest, but it changes so frequently on this track that it kind of nullifies that. I mean, there's probably about a 50-meter gap in between the high point and the low point. It's just all about where it is. Now you see them coming through the second last turn. Pace car's off.
Yeah,
we're about to go racing.
Pace car does come off 2 corners from the end, and Philip Kraus goes very early. Of course, drivers have to stay in line until they get to the start-finish line, and Kraus is off to an early lead.
going into turn 1 now. It's looking like Philip Krause has got about a 3-car length lead.
And there is a spinner pretty far back there in the GT field. I'm trying to figure out who that is. That is Michael Janney.
Christian Chowder's taking the green flag. One of the Mercedes is off. I think that's Steve Brown. Yeah, Steve Brown's all the way to the back of the field.
Yeah, Steve Brown started 4th, dropped his way all the way to the back there in that Mercedes, and he's just working right on the back of Travis Seymour now. It's just going to be fun to watch kind of how this is working. Christian Chandler already out to a pretty decent sized lead as they go through the first couple of corners. Up front, though, Philip Krause as well. He's got a lead. He leads both. Kingsbury. I just want to say he leads Kingsbury, but Kingsbury goes very wide there. Fortunate not to damage his car too much. Maybe some floor damage to it, but that doesn't affect these GT cars too much. Him followed by Ragster in racing.
Real quick, I saw Russell Cleason. He spun out in GT3, and he actually made contact with Clark Archer. The two teammates having problems there. All the Mercedes really not having a great start.
Yeah, they were running 2nd and 3rd when they made that contact, and unfortunate for them because they were just trying to play catch-up to the car in front of Christian Chandler.
I think Christian looking to kind of keep the status quo going as he comes through the final 2 corners and complete his first lap.
At the line, it was almost a 2nd lead already for Philip Krause over Ray Kingsbury. Then Kingsbury back to Ragster was 4/10. Clog then about 3/4 of a second behind them, but Clog and Pandev, they are battling here for the 4th position. Got to see
no love lost between these two. I mean,
no, this is looking on board now with Savy and Ragster as we go through that chicane that we were talking about. You can really straight line that left-handed portion of it, going down the short back with the kink in it, and watching the lights on the dash. He does not have to lift at all for that little kick in the back straightaway. Now going flat out up into 6th gear through this left-right-handed combination.
I mean, just obviously not a great place to pass, but just a great place to watch a car go through.
And losing
he's lost a little bit of ground to Ray Kingsbury.
Yeah, he lost a ton of time on that one. To take a look now, this is 2nd place. Last season's, of course, the inaugural GT America's champion, Ray Kingsbury. He is in 2nd place, trying to just catch Philip Krause any way he can. He did catch 3/10 off that last lap.
Yeah, I mean, in the sprint race, I think he's thinking to himself, I can push a little bit harder. I'm going to see what I can do. And if I can take the pole in the sprint race, maybe I'll have a chance to hold him off in the feature. Philip was pretty dominant last week, so it'd be nice to see a break and come back from it.
Yeah, and up front, it looks like both Archer and Houston are way back, but let's see, it's now Cody Cosgrove. I'm sorry, Cody Cosgrove had issues off the start, so it's still Clark Archer that is running 2nd in class, followed by Houston, but they are about 2-ish seconds off of Christian Chandler already.
Yeah, Christian Chandler, I mean, just again, status quo for him.
Yeah, let's look at 1, 2, 3. That is 4th place Josh Clog right there in the number 2 Spark Machine, and followed by Ivan Pandev in the number 99 Renovo Racing Machine. Great to see him back out for his 2nd season here in GT America. It's very competitive, this Renovo Racing team. They added some drivers for this season as well, and it's been fun to watch because the more the merrier, but also they have more minds putting these setups together, and they've definitely been very competitive as the season's worn on.
Looking back towards the front, Philip Krause may have lost a little bit of time there to Ray, or maybe they just held the stats. Maybe they held a little close. Nope. Ray actually lost 2/10 there.
Yeah, it's about 8/10 from 1st to 2nd right now, and then another 8/10 back from Kingsbury to Ragster. But back behind them, the field's kind of spreading out just a little bit. The closest battle in GTEs is between Kevin Fanning and Tim Brokaw, and as I say that, Kevin Fanning off in the gravel, Brokaw there as well, losing a ton of time. Michael Janney gonna gain some spots back, as that's a look at Marwan Mafta. This is Michael Janney that we're looking at once again, gaining a couple of spots there, getting past at least both Brokaw and Fanning, the 2 Matco Tools teammates that ran deep there.
Yeah, Mike Janney, one of our front runners in the points. Not exactly having the best day, I think. He's sitting in 11th right now. but he'd rather be up, maybe take 10 away from that. But
Yeah, he was leading the points a couple races ago. He's dropped it back to second, 12 points behind Josh Clogg. Clogg, of course, running 4th position that we have talked about. But overall, I think the next closest battle that we can take a look at on track is the 0-2 of Seth Rawls and the 10 of Taylor Carroll. And they, coming down this back straightaway, just going through that kink and trying to get every bit of slipstream off of Rawls is Carroll in that teal car behind. So it'd be fun to watch him. There's off and almost making contact, spins himself out. Great save just not to make contact with Carroll there, but that's going to cost him a ton of time and positions.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. I mean, they were having such a good battle, but that's such a tough corner because the elevation, you're just
and
the car steps out from you so hard, easy.
We've talked about the commentator's curse in this series. That's the second time I've said to go to a battle, and it has not panned out. So maybe I should stop saying that as we take a look at the 91. There, that is it Savian Ragster that's running currently 3rd. And you see him just behind that #1 spark machine of Ray Kingsbury. And Kingsbury just trying to do anything he can to stay within range. He lost another 2/10 there to Philip Kraus, though.
Philip Kraus just so good. I mean, kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously wasn't running for the first 4 or 5 races. Comes in a road to Atlanta, dominates the field. I mean, just interesting to see.
He is one of the highest I-rated drivers in the field today, second only to Christian Challoner. Of course, that just shows the talent level of these two and how they are able to put on such performances as the lead continues to grow between Kraus and Kingsbury.
Oh, now real quick, we obviously don't have Blake Reynolds with us today. He had a decent run last. He's had a decent run for the during the first half of the season. I assume he had some things he had to do with.
I remember correctly, he was getting ready for another race that a producer was telling us about the other day. Of course, I can't forget life.
He's running Car Anomaly is what we're hearing now, producer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm wrong. That's Landon Castle's race. Should be very exciting. I guess if you're gonna be watching that, go root for our guy. Representing NASA.
Yeah, single second gap is basically the first 6 or so positions in the GTEs. Closest battle there is between Mafta and Janney. They just switched positions last lap. This is further back. That is the 46 car of Brandon Lambert. He qualified I believe 6th in class and worked his way up 2 spots. He's now running 17th overall. That's 4th in class.
Battle right now between Quag and Panda. Panda really not letting Quag out of his sights as they come down to the downhill chicane.
Yeah, he can get that run. We see that straightaway speed every single time that these guys kind of take to some of the longer straightaways, but there aren't unfortunately many of those. Yes, you have that long back straightaway with the little kink in it, and that kink you don't have to lift for, but that doesn't mean you can get the full potential out of that Ferrari engine.
Yeah, especially because if you're sitting behind a car like Ivan Pandev is now, you're dealing with a lot of aero wake, so he's probably is lifting a little bit when he's following Josh Clogg here.
And still about 5.5 minutes left in this race. Going to be fun to watch kind of how some of the battles play out. Ray Kingsbury kind of gaining just a little bit. He's cut the lead back to under a second, but still not the closest that we have seen it. And unfortunately, that's kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, just unfortunate to see. But actually, Ray is closing in a little bit. Looking back to Josh Clogg and Ivan Panda, they just got around a lap car. I believe that's Travis Seymour. And now Panda's right on the rear bumper of Josh Clogg. We might see him be able to make a move, maybe going into turn 1. I don't know if we'll be able to do anything else before that.
Yeah, further back in the GTE field, Steve Lane and Cody Cosgrove kind of going at it just a little bit. He's slowly but surely, Cody is catching Steve. That battle, you know, maybe one of the closest ones we have on track just because of how this is panned out.
I would say the close one right now is Quag and Pandev. I mean, you know, Pandev is just not letting him out of his sights at all, and Sabian Rancher's kind of getting roped up into this even.
Yeah, if this is hopefully drivers can kind of figure something out and kind of get more comfortable working in traffic, because you know normally when people put up sessions, you're driving between 1 and 2 other cars. Now that you have a full field of it, you really need to see how they can kind of figure things out around each other and maybe get more aggressive with their moves going into the feature race.
Yeah, I mean, just looking now, I mean, yeah, it's right now, it's a Chevrolet Sanders on Ferrari bread. Looks like Sabian Raxter's going around. He's in the grass a little bit, trying to get around to his head. Seth Rawls, and there's another Lamborghini up front. That's Sean Stratton, so not a lap traffic playing a factor here. See Josh Quag right up behind that Lambo. He's going to be able to get around him.
And look at that grouping of cars. There are 3 of the GT Pros, 2 of the AMs in there as well. Flashing his lights is Panda, just kind of saying thank you for that. Let me get on by here. As you see that the car he just lapped, that 02 of Rawls, does have some damage, scraped the wall at some point.
Yeah, I mean, just it's not more common than you think that scraping walls. I mean, the track doesn't seem that tight. It's not like it's not street circuit tight, but it's
yeah, up front, about half a second now between Kraus and Kingsbury, and it's slowly but surely closing its way in. It was about 0.7 of a second 2 laps ago. Picked off a 10th a lap, and Kingsbury just kind of
Josh Bogg,
and a huge moment for Josh Bogg.
Sorry, side by side.
Or sorry, Phil Kraus, yeah. And
yeah,
now it's right on the boat. That just opens the door completely for Ray Kingsbury, trying to get the move done, but cannot do it after the Kraus mistake. And that's the unfortunate part about this being such a tight track is even if somebody makes a mistake in front of you, you can't always find a way to capitalize.
It's tracks like Barcelona. It's a decent track for driving. Oh, look at Ray Kingsbury going off into the grass. Paying tribute to our rallycross series.
And that's the second time that he's done that in this race. He did that lap one. He's off again. I don't know how he maintains control, getting 3, if not 4 tires off onto the grass there on the last time through the exit corner.
That's that rallycrossing for you. If you want to see that, you can go check it out on Wednesdays. And now I think Ray might be able to do something now coming into that might be the end of the race.
No, he's still got a couple laps to go. They're going to get the white flag next time by. Still have a 1:45 in the race. So still Kraus and Kingsbury battling hard up front.
Ray flashing his lights. That's interesting. Maybe just an intimidation tactic. Philip gets he gets that hairpin right now. Looks like Ray's going to have to wait a little bit longer. Begging for him to just see if he can make it. If he makes a mistake, then I think Ray can capitalize. I think they're both on equal footing, but it's just a matter of the track.
It's been really fun to watch, especially after that mistake from Kraus. Kingsbury definitely did lose some of that time back, though, unfortunately, because after that mistake, you see how hard that Kingsbury's pushing, though. He was almost sideways getting off of that last corner. And he's just kind of full sending it every chance he gets, trying to make up time, because he does have about 2.5 seconds back to Sabian Raxter. He does have some time to play with if he wants to get aggressive with it.
Oh, we have a battle for third right now in GTM. It's Peter Houston and Brandon Lambert. They're right on each other's bumpers. This is actually relatively exciting. I mean, look at them. They're gonna maybe get a move off into the hairpin, but it's all about can Brandon get the run. I think that Lamborghini is a little bit slower in terms of straight line speed than that BMW.
Not quite. Flag is out for Philip Kraus, working his way now through into turn number 5, and he's got at the line. It was almost a full second once again for Kraus over Kingsbury, but yeah, that battle in GTM is really heating up, and of course those positions do translate over into our feature race. So we're gonna have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean,
for that
just to point
race.
out real quick, it's a 3-car battle for third. All 3 of those positions are points, but you know, third obviously gives a little bit more points than fifth. So you're gonna see guys like Steve Brown and Brandon Lambert trying really hard to get around the Houston if they want to make their way up in the point standings.
Through the final couple of corners here for the final time. Kingsbury setting it very deep. They're gaining a lot of ground, but does he have enough at the end?
Nope.
He does not. And that's a checkered flag for Philip Kraus, and he is going to take victory in the sprint here at Barber, followed by Kingsbury.
Yeah, nah, I think it'd be our best interest. We're gonna look right back at this battle for third. Just still super tight. Everybody within a second.
That's Houston, Lambert, now Brown right there as well. They are nose to tail.
Yeah, I don't know if Lambert can make a move here. I mean, they're about on equal footing, but doesn't matter if you're on equal footing here, because the way the arrow weight works, that if you're right behind a guy coming into this double kink right here, then you're really gonna have to lift.
Yeah, just pushing very hard. There's not very many passing zones on the back half of this course, but using every single bit of curve is Brandon Lambert. And oh my goodness, first I say that's Steve Brown trying to peek his nose in there. Oh, he's cutting out of the grass. Lambert, oh, can he save it? He does.
Side by side now.
That was Steve Brown.
They're coming side by side up. They're gonna have 2 corners to go here.
They're gonna have this right-hander followed by a left.
I think Brandon's got it.
And Brandon Lambert having the inside.
Oh, he's got crossover. Oh.
Who's got the run? Coming to the line. At the line. It's Brown. It's Brown. No, wait, how close was that? It was Brandon Lambert by less than 2/100ths of a second. Wow.
See that finish there.
That was an incredible finish.
And them side by side, almost to the line. It really was the difference between that. Well, between a splitter. The splitter was the difference there.
What an incredible race. Let's take a quick look through your finishers. Starting in GTEs is Philip Kraus, followed by Ray Kingsbury, and then Savian Ragster and Josh Klog, Ivan Pandev and Matt Kingsbury, then Michael Janney, Marwan Mafta, Dan McDonald, Steve Lane, Cody Cosgrove, and Tim Brokaw wrap up your GTEs.
And looking back to GTM right now, you have Christian Challoner, Clark Archer, Peter Houston, Brandon Lambert, and Steve Brown. That awesome finish we just saw. Kieran Forrest, Russell Clayson, Taylor Carroll, Sean Stratton, Travis Seymour, Seth Rawls, and Kyle Terrio round out our entire GTM field.
What a great race that we saw, but we still have a 45-minute feature still to come here from Barber Motorsports Park for the 90-something Grand Prix, and we will return in just a moment here on ASN TV. 90-something Grand Prix, and we've seen quite the show so far, and hopefully they keep with it for the second half of the event. Well, the second 3 quarters, I guess, of the event, if you want to get technical about it, as we get set for our 45-minute feature. I am Chad Irvine. Here with me, as always, is Mike Barry. We do have our wonderful, beautiful producer in the studio as well. That's Victor Vallee, and so far, the racing, seen some interesting moments. We've had leaders go off track, and we're watching practice right now wrap things up. There you see Christian Challenger kind of working his way down through a couple of corners behind. Was that Rota? But he's now taking his tow back to the pits, and he's working on his setup, needing to figure out how much fuel to put in his car, because not only do we triple the distance, but we triple the fun for the final 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, just gonna be a lot more exciting here. We have a little bit of fuel strategy put in. Obviously, you're not gonna make a stop. We never have had to make a stop in this series, but you know, just that extra weight you have will make a difference. And I see Christian Challenger coming back out again.
Yeah, so far in final practice, top driver Michael Janney, then Philip Kraus, Matt Kingsbury there as well. But let's take a look here at your starting lineup for the 90-something Studios Grand Prix feature race. It's going to be Philip Kraus on top, followed by Ray Kingsbury and Savian Ragster, then Josh Klog and Pandev, Matt Kingsbury, followed by Janney, then Marwan Mafta, Dan McDonald, then Steve Lane, Cody Cosgrove, Tim Brokaw, followed by Kevin Fanning, and possibly Thomas Keane as well. I'm not sure. He did not turn a lap in the sprint race, but he did show up at least for qualifying. So maybe we'll see Thomas Keane out there as well. And I believe that you have a look at our GTM starting line.
Yeah, looking at our GTM starting lineup, Christian Challenger had a dominating performance in the sprint race. He starts on pole. Clark Archer starts second. Peter Houston starts third. Brandon Lambert and Steve Brown, we saw that awesome finish between them at the end of the sprint race. They're starting fourth and fifth respectively. Then looking back, you got Kieran Forrest, Russell Clayson, Taylor Carroll, Travis Seymour, and Seth Rawls to wrap out our top 10 and our GTM field.
And definitely interesting to see. And did we lose a couple of drivers? We did. We had 12 drivers in the M class, and now we've dropped down to 10. Just unfortunate to see.
Mechanical issues.
That is, yeah, maybe. You'll notice that we are being led by Philip Kraus, obviously in the Ford. But we're also being led by the official pace truck of iRacing. I think that we might have run out of fuel in the Porsche, so just a slight adjustment here for the feature. But hey, we're getting things rolling, and as they start to roll through the field. Philip Kraus in that teal car with his teammate Ray Kingsbury to the outside.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing from NASA management, the Porsche did run out of fuel. They had to run down to the gas station about 2 miles down the road, but then the car broke down, so we had to break out the truck at the last second.
And the lights are off on the truck, but we still have about half of a lap to go. Kraus, of course, in the 999. And then it's going to be Christian Challenger leading the AM field as well in that 78. Definitely going to be interesting. We had some new rules implemented here as well, because we had some issues before we even took to the start-finish line in a couple of races. So the new rules here in the series, you cannot, you must remain in line. You cannot start a move to advance your position before the start-finish line. Of course, the exception to that being if somebody else has an issue on the start ahead of you. So, looking back up front, though, down this long back straightaway, you see all of those Rovo cars lined up, and evasive action there. Almost getting into the back of his teammate. That was Pandev and Klog. I'm not sure what the issue was. It looked like maybe trying to tire warm a little bit was Ragster, and Pandev definitely had to check up and swerve to the outside. But no harm, no foul. There was no contact between them as we get ready for the final 45 90-something Grand Prix.
Just as you see them coming through that long third to last corner, coming through almost chicane here, pretty big. And now they come to the final corner now, and we're going to see them come off. Green flags out, and Philip Kraus gets off to a pretty decent lead. Ray Kingsbury getting out ahead. They have Josh Clogg and Sabian Raxter side by side as they head off into turn 1.
Interesting to see the early jump. Kingsbury slips right back in line. Then Raxter and Clogg 1 through 5, just the way they started. Contact there between Matt Kingsbury and Pandev, absolutely sending it in turn number 1. Unfortunate to see there that contact as Christian Challoner takes to the line. They seem to be nose to tail up front, 4, 5, 6 as well in the GTM field.
And here comes Christian Challoner through turn 1. He's in. I mean, Clark Archer has not let him out of his sights. He made that mistake last time, but he's not going to do it. He's about 4 car lengths back to see if he can make the move.
Yeah, Pandev dropped all the way to the back of the GT Pro field. Has a lot of ground to make up as well, but he is catching Thomas Keane and Tim Brokaw, the Metro Tools team of Tim Brokaw there is next to last in class. So he's got some work to do if you're Pandev, trying to protect your points and do what you can to just get every single spot. It is a long race, still plenty of time to go.
Coming down to the end of lap 1 for GT Pro. Philip Kraus right up ahead. Ray Kingsbury in second. Sabian Raxter right on Ray Kingsbury's rear end. And Josh Clogg and Pandev there.
Just a little bit of damage to Matt Kingsbury's splitter as he is currently sitting in 6th place. He started there. That's right where he started. Unfortunately for him, you know, not only did he get involved in contact with Pandev, he was on probation, I do believe, coming into this race. He did have to miss a race earlier in the season as well because of penalty accumulation. So he missed the race at Interlagos, which for him, that's one of his best tracks here in the GTEs. And just seeing him have to sit one out was painful to watch for him. Still here, getting involved in even more contact right on the start. You have to think that he's regretting that move already.
Yeah, just unfortunate for him. He's a very talented driver, but it just seems like sometimes just can't get out of his own way.
And now we're well behind Michael Janney as well as we ride on board with Clark Archer. Really trying to hold his own here with Christian Challoner. You see Challoner up there in the iRacing number 78. Clark Archer in this Mercedes. It's BMW versus Mercedes. And right behind them is Peter Houston, teammate as well. They got involved in some contact early on in the last race. Christian Challoner, though, as we look out the back, now we see him go through. This is now just, what would I say, maybe a second or so between the two cars. You kind of just need to have some risk mitigation here if you're Clark Archer. Kind of take your time. You don't know when lap traffic can get to you. Yes, it's very early in this race, only 3 minutes in, but we are starting to kind of see the gap grow as these faster class cars just kind of get that straight line speed straightaway after straightaway. And unfortunately, it looks like in GTs, Kevin Fanning has had an issue. He is now well behind there for the field. Oh, he did start from the pits actually, so just kind of working his way up the field there. My mistake. He started from the pits, working his way up, and he is now just trying to catch the back of Cody Cosgrove. Pandev did get by Cosgrove, now working on Tim Brokaw.
And looking forward real quick, we have a battle for Clogg and Michael Janney. They're battling for 4th now in GT Pro. Michael Janney was right up the rear end of Josh Clogg, and he was almost going to be able to pass him, but again, he hit that backstretch, and that backstretch is just not great for passing. See what he can do coming into turn 5 hairpin.
Yeah, Josh Clogg, that black and gold number 2 Spark Virtual Racing. He is your points leader coming into the event, and he's got 4th place right now. Sabian Raxter about a full second up the road, maybe just under that, but Michael Janney pressure from behind. That is your 2nd place runner in the points. Yeah,
just a really good battle we're seeing right now. Michael Janney and Josh Clogg actually 1-2 in points right now. And then they're catching right into the back of Sabian Raxter, who's losing a little bit of ground to Ray Kingsbury, and then Phil Kraus obviously just about 7/10 ahead of Ray Kingsbury. But, you know, a lot closer than we saw in the sprint race between top 5 and GT Pro.
3 manufacturers, your top 3 for GT Pro, 3 manufacturers in your top 4 for the GTM category that Peter Houston kind of ruining that trend as he's in the second BMW there in the top 3 in the AM class. But overall, I mean, you're looking at Michael James just trying to work on Josh Clogg throughout the lap. You see him gaining straightaway after straightaway, but this mid-corner speed of Josh Clogg, especially when there's such long sweeping corners like you see here at Barber, it does not make it easy. But right up the back bumper now is Michael Janney.
Now as they come down the front stretch, complete lap 4 onto lap 5 now. Like I said before, in a sprint, it's a bit of a sandwich with a Chevrolet filling and Ferrari bread. That Savian Raxer, he's gating a little bit on Josh Clogg here, but Michael Janney's, yeah, and I'm kind of losing words here. But yeah, just a good battle we're seeing right now for third and fifth.
Corvette, Ferrari, Corvette, Ferrari, Corvette, Ferrari, 2nd through 7th. And then you have 2 Corvettes, Mafta and Keen, followed by Panda. All 4 Renovo Racing teammates in the top 10 right now, and Ivan Panda trying to work his way back up through the field.
Small lock up there by Josh Clogg. Now that let Michael Janney get a little bit closer now as they come down that back stretch.
So sensitive on the brakes are these cars. Of course, the GTEs do not have ABS, so they don't have quite that advantage that you see in the GTEs. Of course, they do carry more straightaway speed as well.
Michael Janney, the closest he's been all race now. Let's see if he can make the move.
And driver assist, not coming into play for both of these cars. You don't have the brakes helping you out in these, so you really have to be careful, especially for Josh Clogg. Trying to defend your position, you have to focus on hitting your braking points and not letting the guy behind you get any sort of a run, protecting the inside as Josh Clogg just hugging that white line through this long right-hander.
Coming up into turn 3, that shoot up to the top. Now they're going to try into the hairpin. Can Michael Janney make the move? No, he's going to think better of it. You see him just pulsing those brakes, trying to get in. Obviously, as my commentator friend here said, they're not ABS. You have to actually, pulse it yourself. You can't just let the computer do the whole thing. Very different from the GT3s.
And you can see them hammering the curves as they go through that little left-right chicane. But overall, the way that Clogg's able to carry speed out of that corner, you see him just kind of pull the gap. But then on the straightaway, running wide a little bit is Janney, but keeping his momentum up, and he gets right back onto that back bumper coming into the end of the straightaway.
Indeed, I think it's a matter of time before Janney gets around. It's a little bit faster than Clogg, but I mean, that little bit is truly just a little bit. They're about even, but I think that straightaway speed is really going to benefit him when he's trying to make moves.
Kraus and then Kingsbury, then Ragster, Clogg, and Janney, and our producer, Victor, just pointed out the note to us. It does seem like the Corvette might just be able to get that better run off the corner, and he has a straight line advantage if you're Josh Clogg over Michael Janney here in the Corvette over the Ferrari.
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions here, but I think it's just the aero wake that we're seeing from the Corvette onto the Ferrari. I think that's really costing him in terms of getting off the corner. It's just so, it's so crucial to be in clean air, especially since iRacing has started emulating that as it would be in real life.
Yeah, Ray Kingsbury still holding his own, about a second behind Philip Kraus, and then about a second back there. And that is a look at Kingsbury, second back from him to Ragster. From Ragster, then another second back to Clogg. Janney only about 0.3 of a second behind as you look at that battle. And that's one that's been going on, as we've talked about, for multiple laps now. This is back in GTM. This is a battle for the podium. Third place, Brandon Lambert, followed by Russell Clayson and Steve Brown as well, right up in there. All of these guys just maintaining lap after lap, keeping pace with each other, and they're not letting anybody get an inch on one another.
Guys talk about train racing, especially like Daytona or Talladega in NASCAR. This is train racing in Grand Touring racing. I mean, just pretty interesting to see. It's a little bit more exciting here than it would be at Daytona because you just know all these drivers are just super talented for being able to keep it all together, especially with the way the air is working.
Yeah, Houston leading this train, but that's Houston, Lambert, Clayson, Brown, and Archer, followed by Taylor Carroll. Next car back is Kieran Forrest, about 5 seconds behind the train. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 cars nose to tail, snaking their way back on the front straightaway.
Front straightaway right now. Coming to lap 8, Peter Houston running a second. Looking ahead, Christian Challenger about 6 seconds ahead.
Russell Clayson's peeking his nose inside. He might have the move on the 46, still side by side with Lambert. Lambert there in the 90-something.
Maybe a little bit of contact there.
Oh, yeah, they dinged doors just a little bit. That was Lambert onto the dirt, and that's going to give up position then to Steve Brown. That's Clayson Brown, the teammate.
Clayson Brown.
And, oh, my goodness. Yeah, so Clayson and Brown are losing another spot then is Lambert to Taylor Carroll. And that's how the slightest mistake, maybe not mistake, the slightest offline that you are, maybe it's forced by another driver. But that's going to cost you 1, 2, now 3 positions. If you're Brandon Lambert, he's got some work to do there in that 90-something Studios Help Jack Fight machine. This is for second in GTEs. That is Ray Kingsbury that's been caught by Savy and Ragster. Philip Kraus now pulled away by 1.2 seconds. But Ragster seemingly out of nowhere cut this gap down. It was 0.3 of a second at the line as they go through the chicane.
That's far less than 0.3 of a second now. It's all about that backstretch, though. We've talked about it all day. You really can't make much of a move there. It's all about setting yourself up. Can Savy and Ragster set himself up? I think he can. He's got a great run off of the left-right kink here.
And you see that they are starting to catch some lap traffic. There is a GTM in there. That's the 144 of Travis Seymour getting loose right in front of these guys. Thankfully, they get by cleanly, but oh, that was a huge moment there for Travis Seymour.
Bit of a code brown there for Ray Kingsbury. Now as they come off to complete lap 9, coming to lap 10. Saving Ragster right behind. I think he's might be able to get a run going into turn 5 here. We talked about that's probably the best passing opportunity you have on the track.
Yeah, Travis Seymour was my color commentator last season here in GT Americas. He talked about it all season. The Wreck-It Ralph Award, he was really trying to earn it right there, right in front of second and third place in GT Pro.
Now as they come into the hairpin, not quite close enough for Savian to make the move. He's going to think better of it. Ray Kingsbury now going to hold on to second.
Yeah, put another about half car length or so on Ragster and Clog. This is about maybe 2 or 3 seconds behind as well. So if these two keep fighting, that's going to open the door for Clog to just kind of reel in that gap ever so slightly and maybe make a move later on in the race.
Yeah, well, let's not discount. I mean, Clog has his hands full here. He's got Michael Jenny and now Matt Kingsbury battling it out for 4th here. So, I don't know, maybe these guys are going to agree. Kingsbury gets way off loose into the grass, able to hold on to it. But maybe these guys want to think, hey, these guys up front are battling. Let's let's keep our heads cool. Let's move our way up to them.
This is for second place. This is for second place in GT3. This is Houston, Clayson there in the second in line, and then Steve Brown. So that train that we saw of Clayson, Brown, Carroll, and Lambert, they have caught Peter Houston as they are now duking it out for second on back. That's all 4 position, all 6 of those cars.
You have to wonder if maybe Houston made a mistake or if it was just made up through raw pace. But now we're seeing Russell Clayson might be able to make a move here. I mean, these things are a little bit slower, maybe a little bit more sensitive. It's all about the way the different cars are set up. I mean, we know the Merc is very strong on smooth tracks like this. This really is not that bumpy of a track. And now he's getting a decent run. Side by side.
Unless he made a mistake early in that lap, nothing was reflected in the lap times. Unless the guys behind are just running faster. They were side by side there, as you mentioned. But the fun thing to notice, and it's going to be a pain, and you don't want to see if your guys like Kraus, Ray Kingsbury, and Saving Ragster, you're starting to catch these guys as they come out of this final corner. Philip Kraus now just going into the final 2 corners.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a little bit less traffic that Philip Kraus has to deal with now, considering that we lost a couple guys from the sprint to the feature. But it's still, it's going to be significant.
And there was contact there. Houston is off track. He's going to drop at least 6, if not more positions. He's going to rejoin and do it safely. He's going to get back up to speed, but that's unfortunate for him. Trying to just work his way back up through this field.
Yeah, really unfortunate. I mean, don't know. I'll have to look back and see what I didn't see that. I'll have to look back and see if I can catch it. Oh, I'm seeing it now.
That's going to open the door for Russell Clayson to take second, followed by Peter Houston. Or sorry, followed by Steve Brown and Taylor Carroll. So they are still all in line. But if you're back there in line, you're Brandon Lambert. You want every single spot that you just lost a couple laps ago. You want those back. You have to fight. You have to dig. You have to push hard to earn them, as we are now under half an hour remaining here in the 90-something Studios feature race.
Yeah, some controversial moves here by the two Mercedes. Obviously, had that combo and then contact with Lambert, which may or may not have been their fault. They had a contact with Houston, which I would say, not to be biased, but that might have been their fault there. I mean, he did kind of get up right onto his quarter pounder there and
now looking our way through the GT Pro field. That, of course, is the 95 of Dan McDonald. That's Von Pandow right behind him as well. That alternating between Porsches and Corvettes split up just a little bit as Marwan Mafta dropped a spot to Von Pandow. And Pandow now up to 8th. Dan McDonald right in front of him. And that's a look up front at Philip Kraus, the lone Ford in the top 10 of GT Pro.
And Phil Kraus just representing the Blue Ovals up here.
And that's Brandon Lambert that's off track there. Something has happened to him. I don't know. We were just seeing him involved in that freight train. Now he's gone off track. That was right in front of the leaders as well. You saw them on the you saw him parked on the inside as leaders went through last time by. Yeah, he just got loose. There was no contact there, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I think I see contact. There was contact there.
That was very close between them. No, he was loose on entry, and there might have been contact later. But the one thing to note, if we can get a shot of it, I'm not sure. The 33 of Russell Clayson in second place, a ton of damage to the nose of that race car. Yeah, there's no contact. They're just taking the nose completely off. We'll have to see. There might be on corner exit, but getting the slow motion shot, I don't think there is. I think that's just Lambert unfortunately losing it, but he gets it back rolling there in the 90-something Studios Help Jack fight machine.
That's unfortunate for him.
And something happening up at the front of the field, or towards at least the middle of the GT Pro Pack. Saving Ragster just dropping positions. He's now back to 7th place, I believe. You see him there way off track, losing a ton of time. Yeah, that's Saving, right? Yeah, he just went straight on at that corner there, but it looks like he's able to collect it, losing time, but there's no damage to it, so we talk about it kind of sometimes in the real world. We saw it happen to Denny Hamlin in the, when NASCAR was doing their stuff virtually. A kid can shut off your monitor, maybe a cat steps on a power switch. You don't know what can happen, especially here in the virtual world. So, yeah. One thing that I do want to see if we can't, this is looking up at the 182 of Steve Brown. Right in front of him, though, is Russell Clayson. And I want to see if we can't get a shot of the nose of that car. We talked about the contact that he had with Lambert earlier. Look at how bent up that nose is on that Mercedes. The car behind him, the car behind him as well is Steve Brown in another Mercedes. You can tell the difference just looking at the nose of both of those cars. Just a ton of damage to Russell Clayson. Between that contact and possibly contact earlier, that could definitely impact the handling depending on how significant it is from the cockpit.
Yeah, definitely. I think not only is it going to affect the handling, it might affect his vision. You see down at, obviously you can't really see the road that much if you have a little bit of a bump as you're looking out. I know from experience, I used to drive the Mercedes in IMSA. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much it's going to affect him.
Yeah, you can definitely see that hood popped up from the inside of the vehicle. He can probably see that from where he is sitting. And that does not bode well for him. He might just be holding up his teammate at this point. But, it is such a hard track to pass that might not impact him too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of this track is that you can have good racing with damaged cars. I mean, some tracks, you might not have. Oh, here comes the leader. Coming around him, Phil Kraus. But what we're talking about is Yeah, I mean, you can't really pass much on this track, but that also makes it interesting because a damaged car can't hold. It's like a short track in NASCAR. You go to somewhere like Martinsville, if you get, you know, your front nose or something, you can still be competitive.
Yeah, well, the best battle still in GTEs, of course, is Michael Janney there with Josh Clogg for third place now. And you see working their way through lap traffic are your leaders. But this is a look back at that battle. They're working through lap traffic themselves. Working his way around the outside there is Janney.
And looking up front, Ray Kingsbury trying to close in a little bit on Phil Krause. He actually might have done it a little bit. I mean, I have to double check some lap.
Yeah, the battle is under a second, or the gap is right around a second actually now, but picking up half a second last lap because of where Krause caught lap traffic really did allow Kingsbury to gain time.
Yeah, just really good to benefit him here. As Ray Kingsbury comes around Travis Seymour. Hi, Travis. And now they come to the final two corners here. Let's see what Ray can do. Dog, it was a matter about the difference here. It was 1.482 before. Let's see what happens now.
He picked up a half a second last lap, and this time by not so much.
A little bit of time.
He lost a tenth, or maybe a little less than a tenth. He lost about half a tenth there on that lap, so they were pretty close to even. This is further back in the field. This is still Clogg and Janney. The battle for the final step of the podium in GT Pros, that Renovo racing machine of Michael Janney. The zebra stripes that we've seen all season right in front of Josh Clogg, right behind Josh Clogg, and trying to get that third spot.
Yeah, these two guys have been going at it all race, really not letting either get out of each other's sights. I don't think Janney's actually gotten ahead of Clogg this race, but you know, he's trying his best. It was here as they're coming.
That's
lap.
close.
It's gonna be tough.
And now working lap 17 for your leaders. Right on the back. Going with that train, by the way, that we were talking about in GTM. That's kind of fizzled out a little bit. Clayson and Brown have pulled about 6 seconds then on Archer Carroll. And then they have a little bit of gap as well to back to Kieran Forrest.
Yeah, Christian Challenger right now, the only GT3 not to get lapped. I'd say that'll be coming in the next lap or so. Or probably 2 laps. I mean,
still has quite the large gap. Christian Chandler with a 17-second lead in class. So as he is out of turn number 3, your leader's just now going into turn number 2.
I don't know if you want to flex your race control muscles here, Jed, and put his give him a drive through here, because I think this is, I don't know, call dogs and put the fire, because Christian's, you know, run away with it.
He joked about possibly not qualifying. With the way that his practice session was, I think he wanted just to turn as many laps as possible to get a feel for the track. He did end up qualifying in pole, but pre-race practice, he only was 4th by about 0.3 of a second to a couple other drivers. So that's a look there, though, at your defending champion, Ray Kingsbury, currently 3rd in the points. And he's got some work to do on the 2 cars ahead of him, as he is still behind Philip Krause here, 2nd place on the day.
I just want to point out real quick, I saw something in the driver's chat, but everybody's saying it was going to be a little bit hotter today because of the time of the session. Right now, track's 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, you know, decently hot. So guys got to be careful with that. They're not overheating the tires, because that will really affect your grip.
So as we're just past halfway here in the 90-something Studios Grand Prix, it's Philip Krause leading Ray Kingsbury, then Josh Clogg, Michael Janney, and Matt Kingsbury wrapping up your top 5 in the pro category. And then down in the M's is Challenger, Clayson, Brown, Archer, and Taylor Carroll. This is the battle for 5th overall, and this is between Savian Ragster and Matt Kingsbury. That's Matt there in the Gold Spark Virtual Racing Machine.
Yeah, I've been watching this battle for about a lap now. I mean, Sabian really has been pushing. He's a little bit faster than Matt. We saw that. He was running 3rd earlier. I don't know. It's just going to be a matter of when he can get around him.
Yeah, we've talked about how difficult it is to pass here. we do have to thank Spark Virtual Racing for so much sponsorship over the years, both in teams and in series. They're sponsoring I believe it's I'm getting my sponsor. They're sponsoring the Pro Drivers Pro Team Championship this year in the GT Americas. So definitely want to thank them for all of their sponsorship so far this season, as they see them working on lap traffic. That's quite the crossover move. They're very ambitious from Savvy and Rags. Are kind of forcing that AM car out of the way. Just says thank you very much and takes that spot. I don't want to lose.
Matt turned him.
And Matt involved in contact with the lap car in front of him. That, I believe, was that Clayson? That was the second place runner in GT3s.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, well, from what I'm seeing, I mean, Matt just kind of took his lane away.
And he is just a wrecking ball this race. He was involved in contact earlier in the race on lap number 1 with one of the Renovo machines. But now, oh my. The stewards are not going to take kindly to his actions so far in this race.
Not at all. I'm expecting a good few protests here to Matt Kingsbury. I mean, frankly, that's been unacceptable. I mean, he's racing for as much position as you are, Matt.
You have to feel for one of the teammates there as Steve Brown now inherits second position in GT3s.
Steve Brown. Now it's still a Mercedes 2.3 though. That didn't really change. It just went from a 2.34 to a 2.3. So a bit unfortunate.
Clayson back to fifth. Now it's Chandler, Brown, Archer, Carroll, and then Russell Clayson in that 33 Mercedes there. But he still seems to be rolling just fine. I don't think there was too much contact with the barrier. But what an intense show that we've seen so far.
Look at Matt Kingsbury still battling with Sabian Raxter. Raxter about 6/10 back.
Yeah, that's a look at Savvy and Ragster there, just trying to get as much ground as he can. And you can kind of see it slowly but surely, kind of chipping away at it. Overall, though, Kingsbury's when you take a very defensive line like you have all race long, there's not much of an opportunity for Ragster to get past.
Just a little bit unfortunate, just the way the track is, but you know, the drivers love it, so you know I mean, they're the guys racing. We're just the ones watching.
Yeah, next week we go to Circuit of the Americas for the Lone Star Grand Prix, and that's going to be a fun one to watch. I would expect to see a lot more drivers show up, especially in the AM category for that one, as Zach Novak, Jimmy Mullis, and a lot of those NASCAR is hoping. One thing that they talked about, their goal for running this series was to get more track time, and that is a track that they'll be running in NIS this season, or in the Coca-Cola Series this season. So definitely be something to watch for there as we see Christian Chandler get more. A moment there for Matt Kingsbury, but still able to hold the position, maybe chopping the nose of Ragster a little bit, but still holding his position. That's Matt Kingsbury in fifth, followed still by Ragster.
We do have a retirement real quick. Brandon Lambert has exited the session. We knew he was running okay, but it seems like maybe just the race something happened on his car, and that's going to bring an end to his race. Fortunately.
Yeah, he was 5 laps down by the end of it, so unfortunate to see for him. Still, though, this battle rages on between Kingsbury and Ragster. Watching them go through these couple of corners, they're just putting on just an intense show. Probably the closest battle on track at the moment. Yeah, Matt might have burnt out his tires too early because he is just sliding all over the place. Maybe he's just trying to dig too hard because we've seen his back end step out a couple of times the last lap alone.
93 degrees of track temp, so I wouldn't be surprised if his tires are getting a little bit hot. Sun's out too. I forgot about that when I was talking about track temps earlier. We were dealing with a cloudy backstretch, and the backstretch is probably where your tires are going to hurt the most.
Yeah, we get a wider shot. There are clouds rolling through, but as you've seen by how much lighting there is on the track surface, it just, as they roll through, another pocket of sun comes right back out. You see those clouds there, but there's also some blue poking through.
And Ranks are right to the rear end of Matt Kingsbury here. Can he make the move? That's the big question here. He's It's going to be close here. They come down this straightaway.
Yep, still up front, Philip Kraus by 3.5 or so, by 3 or so seconds over Ray Kingsbury, then Clog still. These guys, though, are 10 seconds off of 4th place Michael Janney. This is the battle for 5th.
Michael Janney and Josh Clog having just as good of a battle as Kingsbury and Raxter. Clog holding on. They kind of got held up a little bit by Christian Challenger, who was getting lapped, but which is very strange to say. I mean, but you know, anyway, yeah, I mean, just a great battle we're seeing here between Clog and Janney. I mean, not as close as Kingsbury and Raxter, but you know, it's podium. Everybody wants that.
Yeah, Christian Challenger, points leader, won every single event so far, both sprint and features here in GT Americas, under 15 minutes to go now. That is a look back at Josh Clog. He's under pressure from the 113 of Michael Janney. Talk about the battle for 3rd. That is what you're looking at right there, slowly but surely. Last lap, Clog did pick up 6/100ths of a second, so they are matching each other lap for lap. Now right to the bumper, less than a car length between them, between Janney getting right up on the back of Josh Clog.
Not much of a move to be made here, but...
And that's back just behind them as well. That's Kingsbury, and a huge move. Raxter thinking about sending. He's poking his nose, weaving down the straightaways. Is he going to turn? No, he thought, you can kind of see him thinking about getting the bumper to him. This isn't NASCAR. There's still some respecting plate. You see just a much wider line there out of Kingsbury as he leads Raxter.
Yeah, and we do have a lap car coming up here. I believe that's Christian Challenger. Oh, that could affect it. It's all about where they catch him. It looks like they're going to catch him in the last 2 corners, though.
With as big of a lead as Challenger has, and as smart of a driver as he has proven to be throughout this season, I don't think that he's going to do anything to compromise the battle between these two. Worst case scenario, he might just slow down on the straightaway.
Yeah, there he goes. He's out the way. Let's see if he can make a move now. Raxter right up to it. He's looking to the inside. Here he goes. Not quite.
Definitely thought about it, but the move was not quite there for Savy and Raxter. And he's still right there, about half a car length.
Hey, a good run down here. He's going to make the move. There he goes.
His nose out in the slipstream. He's going to have the advantage here, but he does not have it. Oh, there he is. Kingsbury runs wide.
Side by side.
Side by side. Now, dude, down through this longer second portion. And he's going to get clear.
One of them has to.
You can't go side by side through here. And he's going to concede Kingsbury. You cannot run side by side. There's somebody had to back out, and unfortunately for Raxter, it was going to be him. Kingsbury now pulls about a car and a half on Raxter, and there goes Kingsbury up still in 5th position.
Playing one of the most expensive games of chicken right now. Both those cars worth well over 600,000. There goes Kingsbury off the road.
He hammered the curves, and that's going to open the door. Raxter gets right by very easily, and now on the back foot is going to be Matt Kingsbury. He's trying to make up ground.
I don't know. Raxter always seemed a little bit faster than Kingsbury, so it's going to be a matter of can he close up to Kingsbury, maybe get that position back. I don't know.
And I think that's the thing, is you talk about it, can he close it up? The issue is once he gets there, can he get by? 11 minutes to go, approximately 9, maybe 8 laps to go when they get to the stripe. Going to be fun to watch as these guys the laps and time just tick on by.
Looking up front, Janney and Josh Clog still keeping it within half a second of each other. I think Janney's just kind of holding off and waiting. We still have around 10 laps to go, I'm assuming. So, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of time. You don't want to burn your tires up too late.
Yeah, if you're Michael Janney, you know that you have the pace. You know that you can catch him. But you still have 11 minutes, so you don't want to make your move too early. It might be difficult to pass here, but it's not impossible. Maybe just wait as long as you can, see if Clog makes a mistake, and see how things go from there.
Yeah, I think we saw the consequences of making a move too early there with Matt Kingsbury losing that position to Saving Raxter. If he was able to, I don't know, Raxter's obviously a little bit impatient. He wants to catch up to the guys in front of him. I don't know if he would have had the time to do that unless he got by him 10 laps before, though. So,
He is about 11 seconds behind, though, Ragster to Janny. Janny up in 4th place right behind Clog in that battle that we were looking at. And that's back to this battle here. That's the Renovo Racing Machine. That's Steve Lane going wide there in the Matco Tools machine. And here goes the Renovo Racing Ferrari of Michael Janny, trying to get 3rd place in the final step on the podium from Josh Clog.
Yeah, now closing up a lot because they're coming around one of the lap cars. That's Peter Houston in 2nd. Or not in 2nd, that's like far back from 2nd.
And he's 7th in class.
He was 2nd a while ago. Forgot about that.
He was 2nd involved in contact, yes, and Steve Brown now 2nd in the GTM class, 18 seconds behind. Then Clark Archer 2 seconds back of him. So 1, 2, 3 in GTM is Chandler, Brown, and Archer.
Front engine cars, like they were last week at Road Atlanta, just showing their dominance here. I mean, Mercedes weren't strong when we went to some places like Road America, like Mid-Ohio, not like Mid-Ohio, like Motorsport and like Interlagos, but now you see them really showing their strength here. Just very interesting to see. I mean, before we had the Lamborghinis being the strongest, well, not really the strongest, but they were a lot faster than Mercedes, and seems like the tables have turned.
And just a moment ago, this is getting actually very interesting. I'm gonna go back to what I said just a moment ago, but this is on board with Josh Clog, looking out the back at Michael Janny. Lap traffic kind of broke them up, but it's also brought them right back together. About a car and a half between them right now as they go down the straightaway.
And you see, maybe Michael Janny was looking at the sky, saw the clouds were coming in. Track's cooled down a little bit. He can make moves now. Now he's close right up to the back of Josh Clog.
I thought it looked like he might have thought about sending it up the inside. They're locking up just a little bit. There is Clog.
Didn't really affect him too much, though.
No, it looked like Janny tried to just follow him through, watching his braking lights and trying to match him step for step, and he locked up just a little bit as well. But fortunately for him, it did not cost him any time at all.
Right now we're seeing, I think Janny is the faster car here. It's all going to be a matter if Josh Clog can hold him off. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're a faster car here. If it's not that significantly different, you can definitely defend here. I see him coming through the final quarter
It's
now.
still Kraus by 4 seconds now over Ray Kingsbury, then Clog and Janny, then Ragster and Matt Kingsbury, your top 6. So this is the closest battle on track as it appears. Further back, it's still Christian Chandler by 22 seconds, and then Clark Archer 3 seconds behind him. So these guys are definitely the ones to fight, and he's making the move late on the brakes, but not able to get the move done. Crossover move?
He's going to have the run. There. He's side by side. Not quite. I think he's going to hold off on him.
We talked about it. You cannot go side by side through this chicane, but you can get a great run out of it. Locking up just a little bit on his left front was Clog, but Ragster not able to gain any time because of it.
Just look at the difference in when you're in clean air versus when you're in dirty air. Janny and Clog.
Yeah, and you kind of see him swerving just a little bit down the straightaway. We talk about drafting in super speedways here in the stock cars where, every little bit behind another car helps you. Well, here, when performance and handling do come into play, it hurts your car quite a bit as you see him trying to get any bit of fresh air that he can on that nose for Michael Janny.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of just not getting any air to the front splitter or the rear wing. All that is taking away your downforce. So when you're following a guy into a high-speed corner, you're not going to be gaining a lot of time.
Yeah, the best thing for your front 5 or so is we've seen some issues from cars in this race and throughout the season, but all of our top 5 right now, I believe, are clean in terms of the front end of their cars. We've seen Ray Kingsbury, have a bent up front end a couple of races early in the season, but he's done a great job of keeping his car between the white lines, and he's got second place right now by about 7 seconds or so the gap. He did have a bit of a moment on his last lap. He did lose 2 seconds to Philip Kraus on 1 lap alone, but it's still Kraus and then Kingsbury by about 5 or so seconds. Then Clog, Janny, and Ragster, your top 5.
And we're still just seeing that great battle between Josh Clog and Janny. neither of them out of each other's sights. To look farther back, I mean, I think the next closest is Kingsbury and Ragster. But Kingsbury's lost a lot of time, about 3 seconds back.
Kingsbury and Ragster are about 4 or so seconds, but another one to note, only a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds, as Steve Brown and Clark Archer battle for second in GTEs as well. They are teammates, so I don't expect much of a fight between them if they get caught up, but you never know what can happen. That's a good point that's raised in my ear by our producer, Victor Vallee. Clark and Jenny, I believe they might have been teammates last season. The biggest difference, I think that, yeah, they were both running the BMW last season, and this season, with the manufacturer change, Clark thought, I'll take the Corvette. It handles my driving style, be a little more aggressive in the corners, and Janny thought, the straight line speed can definitely help me out. So they were teammates last season. Now they're battling for position as they come up on lap traffic. Clark for the second lap in a row, locking his left front through that chicane down the hill. And this is going to be Josh Clark still holding position as some of the macros was. This is one of the cars that I was talking about just a moment ago. That's the 33 of Russell placed just in front of him. He is running 5th in place. And this is just going to open the door.
Side by side, here they go.
This next corner is a left-hander. If you're Josh Clark, you just have to pray he stays out of the way. He does. But all this does, thinking about the outside move is Michael Janney. Janney's going to get clear, but still nose to tail for 3rd place in class.
Yeah, I don't know if first place was just with the mentality of hold your line here, but seems to really kind of made this battle a little bit more interesting. There you go, Michael Janney right up to the bumper. Not much contact there. Not exactly a contact sport here, but let's see what he can do as it makes a run down to the chicane.
Rubbin is racing, in the words of the great crew chief of Harry, but my goodness, what a race these guys have put on while keeping it clean. And I think that it's something with the way the Corvette handles it. He's able to lock it up. Is he gonna have some front tires at the end of this race though? Because every time he goes through that little downhill chicane, it definitely does lock up. You see some tire smoke coming off of it. Maybe move the brake bias a little bit further back, but overall, it's maybe just the way he wants it to handle, because he's able to keep the car behind him, regardless of what that interval is.
And here they come. I mean, we're looking at maybe only 4 or 5 laps to go here. 3 to go. And let's see what happens. I mean, can he make this move? I mean, you don't need that much tires now. Basically, what you got is what you're going to be dealing with. I think Janney still can make this move. He just has to set him up over like the course of maybe 2 laps.
About 5 seconds still, the battle between first and second. This, as we've been watching for the last 5 laps or so, still the best battle on track between Clog and Janney. That's Clog out front in that black and gold Spark virtual racing machine. Right behind him, Michael Janney for Renovo Racing. And what a show that they have put on here in the 90-something Grand Prix.
Here they come through that left-right kink here. One we've talked about, I call it the run killer now, because that's all we've seen is like guys will be right behind them and just can't, take away any momentum they have. But now they come through that uphill, then downhill, and into the final 2 corners now. They go.
And by the way, that gap for second is coming down between Steve Brown and Clark Archer. That's for GT3, in the GT3, the AM class. Definitely shrinking slowly but surely, but with only 2 laps to go, I don't know that there's going to be enough time for Clark Archer to get to Steve Brown. Yeah, 2/10 faster last lap was Archer, but you just have to watch it. You're gonna have to see how things play out here the last couple of laps. 2 to go for them. And still up front is Philip Kraus by Kingsbury, and then Josh Clog still in third, but he's fighting hard to keep saving Ragser at bay. Michael Janney saving Ragser there in third, 6 seconds behind them. He is well clear there of Matt Kingsbury. I think that Matt's little excursion kind of burnt his tires up as he has lost even more time to 5th place. Coming to the 2 to go, maybe? No, this is going to be the white flag here. White flag here for Philip Kraus as he gets by the line. But that only means so much when the battle for position behind you is 13 seconds back. Ray Kingsbury still 5 seconds back.
Jenny right in the rear bumper. He's got a good run. Here he goes into turn 1 now. Can he do anything about it? Not quite. It's all about holding momentum as they come in to turn through this long, sweeping right-hander.
So going up the hill now is Josh Clogg. Now going down through the next left-hander, and he's still just taking a very defensive line. Open the door just a little bit, but that opens him up for a better exit of the corner. If you give him about half of a car width on the inside, he can't take it. And if you get the better run out, taking the wider line, that's all the more advantage. Coming down through this chicane for the final time.
He locks up. A little bit of a lock up there. I don't know if he can do much about it, though.
Yeah,
Michael Janney still
Janney.
having to hold on.
Michael Janney losing a lot of time there with that lockup, and is not, I don't think, going to be able to get to the bumper here. This is the hardest part of the lap. It's just so technical. We've seen a couple of drivers lose it through this section. But taking to the line for the final time, it's going to be Philip Kraus going back-to-back here in GT Americas, and he gets his 2nd straight win, and Kingsbury takes 2nd. But let's take a look here. Coming to the line, it is Kraus by about 2.5 car lengths. What a battle, or Clogg by 2.5 car lengths. What a battle that they had.
Yeah, what an excellent battle here. Looking back,
That's
Christian Challoner coming through the backstretch kink.
Still a long way to go.
I don't think
Christian Challoner still working his way towards the line. He's just now entering the final couple of corners. So it's going to be Challoner then taking the win in GT. And this is the battle for 2nd. This is closed up quite a bit there for Steve Brown that you're seeing in the 182. Steve Brown holding 2nd, and Clark Archer in the 4 car right behind. Those two obviously are teammates with their similar paint schemes. But wow, Archer did a great job just closing up the gap. He's not going to be able to get it, but Christian Challoner still takes the sweep. Once again, he's won every round, every sprint of the season, and it's still going to be Steve Brown at the line, followed by Archer.
Yeah, just couldn't quite get to him at the end of that lap, the end of that race. I mean, really good comeback though for Clark Archer. He had a little bit of problems there earlier on, but was able to rally back, rally hard, but just comes up a little bit short right at the end.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd there for Brown and Archer, the two teammates, and they put on